Hi guys, hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Talking Mode. My name is Caroline, and alongside with me is
Sarah. Hi guys. So this week is actually the first week that all schools start to have their students, go back to school. Basically, we're trying to get back to the normal as seniors. We're at the threshold of graduation. Things couldn't get more real. Uh, it's been hectic. The schedules are crazy, and so we just want to, since we're seniors, and a lot of things started to pop up in our mind right now. Things like where will we go, or like what majors, should we take, or things like what will we do in the future. Just everything just like pops up in our mind, and it's crazy. Like we're going to dedicate this episode to talk about how we have benefited from the education, what we have learned, and how it has helped us to move towards the future. So, without further ado, let's get started.
the first question that we will answer is how have we benefited from the education system, what we have learned, and what are the knowledge, soft skills, etc. that we have obtained from learning, from being in the education system itself. So Sarah, we'll start with you.
Okay, so before I answer this question, I just wanted the audience to know that this is my perspective coming from a student in a large city in Vietnam, and so it will have a lot of my opinions. It does not kind of extend up for every student in Vietnam. So
Yeah.
I just wanna say that. Okay, so as a student born and raised in Ho Chi Minh City, I have benefited quite a lot of skills and knowledge from our educational system. First and foremost, I would say that in terms of theoretical knowledge, I think we have accumulated more than enough. Uh, right. So things like physics theories, chemistry theories, things like that. I think like the amount of knowledge that we have accumulated, it's like sometimes we don't even know what to do with it because like there's a lot. So that's so we basically, I think that on the bright side, we learn how to explain, all the kind of like natural phenomenon. I think that's a plus one. Secondly, at my schools, I have participated in quite a lot of extracurricular activities because I think, like we've said before in some of our previous episodes, that our schools has like more than 20 clubs, and so it gives us a lot of opportunity to practice, our soft skills, to apply what we have learned into, organizing events or training for, or like or making, I don't know, workshops and stuff like that. We get a chance to debate, public speaking things, or like basically like Caroline writes the journalist, right? Some of the journalist skills. So I think that's good. Let's say what else. In terms of sport, I don't know if I benefited a lot because sports has not been a like a strength in most of the public schools in Vietnam. I myself play tennis, which is not a very common sport for within the Vietnamese curriculum. So I basically just have that outside of school. In terms of like the connection and human connection and stuff, I think uh, well, it's kind of distinct for Vietnamese students that we've learned kind of the order. Like we learn have to be obedient, which is sometimes not regarded as a right, like a positive thing. But like we've learned how to deal with, basically the human connection, and I think that's good. Like we know how to talk, how to be on our best behavior in public, or basically at special events. I think that's also a benefit. How about you, Caroline? I'm sort of at a loss of words right now.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said. And I feel like that's kind of a experience that is applicable to most of the students, especially if they are studying in Vietnam and they are fortunate enough, like us, to be studying in a very populated country, not country, but like city, where many opportunities are given to students. And one thing I would like to add to that is about the curriculum and the syllabus here in Vietnam. The fact that it is so densely packed with knowledge, with theoretical like formulas, like you said, theories. It also teaches us how to manage our time very wisely. Nowadays, students are expected to be more than just a student. They are expected to have morals, to be involved in their extracurricular activities. And even though it is sometimes very hectic and very stressed, I feel like it gives us an opportunity to really reassess and reevaluate about our priorities and really manage our time very well. And if not well, then at least we know how to do it. And that's a very crucial skill that might be useful in the future. And also I really resonate with the experience or the lesson that we all learn about how to behave in public setting and the interactions with each other, because I feel like school is another replication of a small society, as we all heard. And so not living, but like studying and working and just staying within the education system itself really broadens our interpersonal skills, meaning like we learn how to resolve conflicts. We learn how to speak up, even though sometimes we are taught to be obedient. That's correct. But with the changing of times and how people's attitudes are changing, I feel like the way that the education system is also changing, in a sense that we are now expected to speak up more. We are expected to be more not so obedient anymore. And people like that. And even though in the beginning I felt very awkward like speaking up, and it just felt weird, because for all of my life I've been taught to just stay quiet. But throughout the extracurricular activities and your different interaction and different conversation that we had throughout our high school years, I've really learned to change my values and maybe just set aside insecurity and fear of speaking up, and rather just speak up. That's an ongoing process, but that's, I think, is a valuable lesson that the education system and the people within it have taught me. And other than that, I don't really think of anything.
I think some of the knowledge that we apply in our daily life, it's not explicitly taught at schools, but like through the activities that we got a chance to took part in, like like Caroline had said, it's that we've learned how to like resolve the conflict, or like we learn how to deal with some of the, like we learn how to deal with money. So because we have to organize events and we have to talk to a person that is outside of school. And so yes, some of them are not explicitly taught, but it's through experience and it's through a lot of different kind of educational methods. And so that's how we can absorb the knowledge.
Yeah, and that's where I don't really typically agree with people who say that the education system, doesn't facilitate enough resources for students to develop their skills. Because I do feel like even though it doesn't directly create the resources, it creates the foundation for those resources to be facilitated in. It involves a lot of people, and from those people within the education system, they will create clubs, they will create resources. And nowadays, like we mentioned in the beginning, our schools, even though they don't really I don't know how to say it, like they don't have debate clubs, but they encourage us to join debate clubs, and they encourage us to do scientific research. And that also is a way that
like with the critical thinking, you know how they want us to like to apply critical thinking in, say, presentation, or like, you know, in our everyday learning periods, I think. So yeah, but of course we understand that many people still think that they're not given enough opportunity because based on different, you know, geographical locations,
I agree.
like there are places in Vietnam that are not well equipped with equipments, or like not, I think with teachers there's a difference in educational levels, or
Yes, I agree.
like that.
Yeah.
But I like to think, you know, in this episode, I like to think that what if we're given like the same, you know, what if it is the same? Now we evaluate it on the, like, as the same thing applied to everyone, and
Yeah.
see if it's, you know, even at our best level, you know, are we well prepared for what the future awaits?
Answering that question, I feel like there are enough resources for us to be able to learn skills and to obtain knowledge that will be useful in the future. But the reason why I still think that that scenario is not yet present or real is because of the problem that you represented, like the problem with privileged students and underprivileged students, of the differences in educational levels and educational facilities and resources for students in rural areas and students in remote areas. And that main problem is the reason why I still think that the education system is not doing our students justice and preparing us for what the future awaits. Yeah. And it will take a long time before remote areas will look similar to like rural areas or where we live. Like the students there will have enough resources at hand to develop their skills.
Right, of course, because I think that is also the basis of education.
Mhm.
Like we don't want to educate, you know, a certain amount of people. We want to educate on a whole, because, you know, different generation, like our generation, say, spans from the north to the south, and we don't want just, you know, this specific place has the people that are the brightest, you know, to lead the country. No, we want it to be the same. I mean, at least have the equal chance to education too. So though we have said about what we've benefited from the education, there are still a lot of shortcomings that we have went through during our years of, say, from elementary to high schools. So, Caroline, to you, what are some of the shortcomings that uh, you have come across?
Yeah, okay. So the number one thing that I think students face in the current education system is the notion that we are expected to be so much more than students, like I mentioned in the beginning. Like I find it rather hilarious that even adults who are like 30 years old or even like middle-aged people, they still don't know what they want to do with their lives. But somehow we at this early age, at 18 years old, we already have to decide on what we have to study. And with the education system, particularly in Vietnam, once you declare your major, you cannot really change that. And even though like in America, in other liberal arts education, you can, explore as many fields of studies as you can. But like in Vietnam, that is still isn't the case. And so that means that once you declare your major, there's no going back. And that's the reason why I feel like many students, after they finish college, they go out and they end up like doing a job that is completely different from what they study for. And that's not representing a quality education system. And also, as I mentioned, we are expected to do everything. Like quite frankly, like we have to study, like achieve the highest scores possible. We have to behave well. We have to join extracurricular activities, and we have to do well in each of those fields, and we are not expected to do like the bare minimum, or the average. We have to do well, and we have to accelerate on all those fields, which I find affects our mental health than ever before. And that's why with our generation Z, there are many problems regarding mental health, and many problems regarding societal attempts, or just the students' well-being in general. Yet the education system is ignorant to that, I feel like, because in Vietnam there's no emphasis on students' mental health care. There are no places, facilities, or even hospitals that specialize in managing students' health care. Yet that is the biggest problem that we have in the current times. So yeah, that's the biggest controversy I see, and it's hindering us from becoming our best selves and performing at our max capability. Yeah, that's the biggest thing that I can think of.
Right, I totally agree with you. So now what I would say is, I will add up to what you've said.
Okay.
I agree with the whole mental health, because it's usually people kind of, I don't know, they mix it up with us, having to experience puberty, but I think that it's not, like, it's totally different. It's not, we don't really act out, it's actually real, because of all the hectic schedules. Well, and the next thing I want to say is that I understand that in Vietnam, which is a developing country, we are, our top priority for education is that the outcome that we expect is that we get a good job and a family, things like that, a high position, status in life. And so what we do, what the education guide us towards, it's basically an environment where we only know how to move forward, but like we don't really learn anything, in terms, like, I'm not saying that, for example, learning Shakespeare or like do they are actually very useful, but in a way the mindset, our learning mindset is that we just learn it so that we could get to the next level. And what is the problem with getting, what if there's no level left? We are obligated to just move to the next level. Okay, so at this stage in senior, okay, you're supposed to have your IELTS, your SAT, or and things, and you're supposed to write all the essays and stuff to get into college. Okay, and then when you finish college, you're supposed to maybe post-grad, write another essays, or like take another standardized test to get to the next place, basically, until when you have a family, or like when you achieve a certain thing in life. That's it. When you look back, I think that what I really enjoy about learning, I think I really enjoy learning, but like because I actually feel it, say when you immerse yourself in a literature, literary piece, you feel it, and you see how beautiful it, how people have view life. I think that's really beautiful, and I think that's very useful in life. But like we're being very we'll rush to the next place as fast as we could. All we do is that maybe we go to a prep class to get higher scores, which is the top score, like being at the top of the class, or like getting maybe 10-point GPA, something that we, that basically our mindset. Even though how much we say we like to learn, but it's that we're being rushed to the next level. And I just think that the educational system would be better if we just be a little bit, take time to really understand what we have learned and really apply it. So that would be more, I think, useful.
I agree. Quite frankly, I know that many people, they despise learning, but like you said, you enjoyed learning, and me, I also enjoyed learning. In particular, I really enjoy learning math and doing math, and just like knowing that I can do it. And after you finish a hard question or hard practice question, like you feel that sense of pride and you really build up trust for yourselves. And like at the same time, your self-esteem expands as well as your like knowledge, and that just makes learning a very enjoyable process. And that's why I am okay with the fact that my scores are not that high, but I rather take
You've learned
time.
what,
Yeah, I'd rather take time, and even if I don't understand anything, at least I try to make the most out of the subject, or make the most out of the matter that I'm learning about, which kind of builds up the mindset that you talked about not valuing the scores and not valuing academic validation that much, and just have your own validation, like the validation that you have for yourself and your effort, and really doing the education system justice, because all of these knowledge that we have access for once was very rare for people back in the days. Like they would die to have an education system like us. They would die to have access to all of this knowledge like us. And because of the mindset, the toxic mindset that I currently hold against education system and education in general, especially here in Vietnam, we just kind of put that same toxic mindset onto those subjects, especially like history or geography, the subjects that are regarded as lower, like lower class and stuff. It shouldn't be that way. And I know that the students are not the main people to be blamed for, because it is the fault of the whole system and the people at the top. But I feel like, yeah, I feel like we are the people most affected by the education system, and so we might as well just evaluate our priorities and just really think that what are our goals, if we want to just achieve high scores, or if we want to just make use of this 18 year of knowledge and just really like understand. Because sometimes, like in my daily life, I come across some situations where I recognize that the knowledge that I learned in school can be applied in that specific field, like chemistry and math, even like literature or geography. And but most of the time I just overlook them and I just disregard them, because I hold this toxic mindset toward them. So yeah, I agree.
I think well, when we say that it's not applicable enough, well, try not to basically learn something and expect it to be instantly applicable to your life, because that's basically not how knowledge works.
Yes.
In order for knowledge to be apply in life, you just have to rigorously pay attention to it, research more, and then make it your own your knowledge. Basically, that's it. I think some people, they blame the educational system because they said that well, in the end, all you're gonna use is all the math knowledge that you're gonna use. It's like plus, I don't know, plus, minus, divide, or multiply. But
Yeah.
that's not it. I mean, if you say so, you basically turn yourself into a robot, because that is a job of a robot. Basically, I think that we just learn and see the logic behind it.
Yeah,
And
the process of you.
and the process of how you gonna come to the conclusion. I think that's
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, we made an episode about valuing the process rather than destination. Yeah, so
Remember, I remind you to link the episode right here.
I will. Okay, and so please watch it, because I really see that I really value that education is about the process of you learning and not the result that you obtain, even though your result will reflect the process of you learning, but you should value the process more than the results, because the process will teach you more than the scores on the paper. And looking back, I would not remember, this is a cliche thing to say, but everyone tells you that, or like when looking back, you will not remember the scores, but you will remember the memories and the process in which you learn and you try to get to the scores that you had. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's true.
like after like 5, 10, or maybe just a year later, like your score just becomes a number.
Yeah,
Just a number.
and even though like now I'm feeling sad because my scores this semester are lower than I would, but like
True.
Yeah, but I'm quite satisfied with the effort that I put in, because I know that, we cannot, we have multiple different things to do. Like I mentioned, I have to write essays, I have to do jobs, I have to do the talking mode, I have to do like many sorts of thing and not just study. And so I think like delegating my mental energy and accepting the fact that I will not be able to study as well as the person who dedicates 100% of the time to studying, right? Yeah, so that's it.
So, moving on to our last question of today's episode, what are the ways to improve the educational system? Okay, how about we start from the education system itself, right? The people working, like the minds that yeah that those people who make policies, right?
Yeah,
So
I do feel like the start should, the initial start should be from the policymakers themselves. At least, just to raise awareness to the fact that the education system needs changing. Because nowadays I feel like people are quite satisfied. They are either satisfied with the system, or they are not satisfied with the system and they chose to run away from the system, or they chose to study abroad, they chose to go to another country, and they choose not to stay. So those are the two like most popular scenarios that I see with for the students within the education system. And so I do feel like there should be policymakers who are really valuing and who really see the importance of changing the mindset and changing the way people think, people view, and people act within the education system. Because even though we always say like we must start with a mindset, but I do feel like people should be aware of the fact that we need changing before we can move to the next step, which is the mindset.
I think that one way, it is actually really hard because different people entitled to different, opinions. But like, what policymakers could do is that they should have more like meetings for basically to talk with the students themselves. Like, I think like the interaction when you open a conversation, let the opinions be heard and not criticized. I think that when you listen to what they have, what they have experienced, and you see it for yourself if it's true. Maybe take a survey or like on like a face-to-face conversation, I think would help. Like in different provinces, maybe start with student council or something, or like basically we need opinions from the students themselves, because they are in the educational system, and I think that their opinions really matter, not people outside dictate what students should do or should not.
I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like the authorities, they do know about the problems regarding the education system. They are aware of the fact that there is a toxic mindset towards the education system. But why, like, how do you think can we maybe pressure them to change, or how can they actually change? Because again, being aware of the problem is not the solution.
Right, being aware is just, if you just stay at aware, then it's just aware, right? Well, I think in order to change from awareness to action, it takes a person with heart, because after all, this is people elected, different person to the position. And I think that, well, not that I'm gonna delve into this topic since it's controversial, and since it's not the thing with election is that it's not always clear, but like I think that really to be in the educational sector, you have to have a heart. If you and basically saying this doesn't make a change, because saying this just basically not acknowledging it, not really make a change, right? But really I think more interaction with the students. It's one way that the policymakers can, or like they should learn from the learn from countries like Finland, that they have like one of the best educational
The
systems in the
best.
world, the best, right? And learn why. Not do not really copy them. Just learn, the process. Don't just look at
Obviously, yeah.
the whole process, the method. Well, some people should say like, okay, Finland doesn't have homework. Okay, let's implement that. But that's not really, it's a process. Education is a process. It's not like that's what you should do and you apply it and there. You have to be like flexible, and you have to how to implement it based on the status quo, the educational status quo. Don't just be rigid. Don't apply it like just I think basically just learn and see how people have done it, because like I feel like a lot of in like initiative wait
Yeah, initiatives.
yeah, a lot of initiatives, um like educational initiative right now, there are a lot, but like we kind of like we didn't really catch up with those, and we're basically behind times. I think that we should just catch up more on the educational, what they have done, right? What they have done, what they have experienced, and see how they like what are the things that we need to improve based on that. We don't sometimes I feel like there's a lot of like experiment on the students, but like I don't think that's helpful, because like it's like making an interruption to the educational system, really. I remember when I was in like grade 5, and there was this like there was a change to the scoring system that basically changed from scores to the letter. And I don't know if you remember that, but like it causes, I think, a lot of controversy. And I know people just talks all about it, and then after a year it was people just demolished the whole thing. They went back to the scoring system.
So one thought, I just thought of a notion that I do believe that the education system, like particularly in Vietnam, it is bound to change. But it's the matter of when it would change, because of the current trends in the employment sector, or the criterias that are set out to select employees, to select students for internships and stuff. People nowadays are valuing students with a more soft skills. Obviously, they value students who have a distinctive characteristic. And so I feel like that's the main source of drive that will like encourage or force the education system to change, and to change like its policy to produce those types of students, to adapt and to satisfy the employer's needs. Like with when we participated in many debate competitions, we always heard of the many debates surrounding the test optional policy, and as recent as the standardized testing and personalized education and standardized education. And so it is obvious like that personalized education is will bring more benefits to the students and the education system itself. And like it's education is interconnected with many other fields like economy, medical, like etc. So when we produce quality students, we produce quality employees, then economy will improve, medical will improve, everything will improve eventually. Because
It's like
education,
it's like
yeah,
a trickle down effect,
trickle down
right?
effect, yeah, because education really is the core to any nation and the world. And so yeah, I do believe that Vietnam would change, like Vietnam education system would change. But I would I would like to be for it to be a permanent change, rather than for many of the years we always hear of educational reform, but like educational reform after educational reform, like it's ongoing. And so I'm asking for a permanent reform where it's permanent, like Finland, they do it pretty well. Like they do it very permanently. Yeah, they take them, even though like it is a process in itself, but they are definite and they are permanent with their policy. So that's what I want.
Yeah, I think that the word we're looking for is like consistency in the education. Like, I mean, like we have, okay, so Vietnam, from the north to south, I think that we need like the same educational system, basically guiding the students to the same mindset. Not like, of course, they have different goals and different the things they want to achieve in life. But the thing is, I think for many students now, if you notice is that if they are planning to study abroad, then they know that they have to take a lot of like extracurricular, have to do a lot of extracurricular activities, right? But then for those who are staying in, like they choose not to study abroad, then they think that, okay, so I don't have to do extracurricular
I just
activities.
study.
Yeah, so I just study. And so it basically there are two types, you know, those who are really good at learning and also really good at extracurricular activities, and those are just studying. And I think that both of them have the capacity to just do it without the constraint of having to apply anywhere, because they do it for the requirement, not for the for themselves really. So I think that in a way, like what educational has to look for is that we should guide students to know what they need to equip for themselves, to not constrained by the requirements of any institutions. I think like that it would be better, because now you have your own, you can yourself drive yourself to the destination that you want, not
Yeah.
like giving them the like, okay, you need to do this, and so you just yeah. I don't think that's, I think that's one of the biggest thing that
Yeah,
we should.
I agree, because now we are kind of producing specialists. Like when you talked about, you know, a type of students who are very good at soft skills, and another type of students who are very good at learning. I generally view them as specialists. But what Vietnam really needs right now is generalists, who can both study and who are willing to study, but also have soft skills and have, you know, the basic interpersonal skills. But I do think like changing the, how to say, like employment sector, like how people employ employees, what are different criterias, will eventually drive the change for the education system, because again it is supply and demand. So if you know they are demanding students with soft skills, with interpersonal skills, then the education system will change its policy to produce such students for the employers. So that's supply and demand.
Right. And so as for now, we've talked about what the educational system itself should do. I think that it's also important for us to acknowledge that we are how we in the educational system should do to improve our own education, is that we should be more proactive. I think instead of, because like 45 minutes like in school in a period, it's really short. And for
Yeah.
example, if really, I mean, yeah, for sometimes it's not really short. I'm saying this like like in an abstract kind of way.
Yeah,
45
I understand.
to really understand, you know, I mean, if you're really into science and stuff, you know, you should be more proactive in researching like outside the classroom. Don't just be restrained to what you're learning inside the classroom, because that's the only way you can really immerse yourself into the knowledge. And that's how you, and I think that's really necessary if you're planning to apply anywhere, you know. If you want to show your interest, I think that's also good, because now you have it. It's not forced. It's not a forced connection. It's real. So yeah, I think be prepared when you are young. You know, basically the whole thing is a process. Don't just do it when you have to do it.
Yeah, I agree. It's better to be prepared. You know, what if you change your mind mid-journey? You know, what if you suddenly decided to study abroad? Then you will not have the extracurricular activities, or you will not have the resume. So like when you first start off, like I feel like just believing in the notion of, it's better for myself to be prepared, and then once you get into the journey of expanding your skills, then I believe that you will find the joy, because in the beginning I just wanted to create, to make high school an unforgettable experience where many lessons are learned, where many clubs and many positions, many extracurricular activities are taken. But once I, get involved in the process of doing so, I really enjoyed it, and I really find it enjoyable, as well as informative. And yeah, so
Right, but that is not to say that you should basically take part in everything. You need to have a clear goal in mind.
yeah.
Say if you want to become a doctor or working anything related to the science sector, then maybe you should orient yourself towards that way, because you don't have that much time to just try everything.
Yes.
Right, so just have a clear mindset, because you don't want to just do everything and realize you're basically average at everything, you don't want to be a jack of all
Yeah,
trades.
and also to just like talk more about these topics, and not just talk, but like actively engage yourself in the current affairs, because it will be a waste if we don't use the resources that we have access to today. Like we have many news, many platforms that we can learn from, and I do not, I'm not saying that you should know everything about the world, or you should be politically engaged, like too politically engaged, or like too much involved in any of this. I just feel like being present and using your time wisely, because even though we know that we have time, we're young, but if we really think about it, we don't really have much time if we continue to waste it. And yeah, I do feel like just making education and a topic that is worth talking about, and it's not taboo anymore, and it's not sensitive anymore, and talking about the many suggestions that you have for the education system can be a good thing, and we should not stigmatize it, and we should not be afraid of people judging us, because I feel like many people have the opinions about what should the education system change, but they are afraid to speak up because they fear that it is too sensitive, or it's too politically yeah. But again, I don't feel like it's a waste of time. Yes.
Right, so have as much fun discourse that you could have your friends about anything academic. It's basically saying academic, it's like starts from the littlest thing, uh from the math, I don't know, math problem to whatever things, just engage in. You don't know how much you've learned. Right, so like this, like the talking mode, we basically talk, and right here we are.
We should talk and don't forget about everything else.
Right, so I think that's a wrap in today's episode. We hope that you have learned a few things or two, or a thing or two, or like this video, basically this episode comes as useful to you.
Yes.
So I think that's it, and until next time, stay tuned,
stay safe,
and
stay awesome. Bye.